right, lady. Our next episode here of Whistle Talk. Tonight, I got a special guest for live show number two. I got a special guest with me, Mr. Dean Blandino. Mr. Dean Blandino is coming to us from Southern California right now. So he's can see the sunshine in the background here while I'm in New Jersey, a little bit in the dark. I got all my extra lights on. But Dean, thank you once again for taking the time to join me tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be on the live show and yeah, talk a little football and officiating.
Awesome. Great stuff. So, Dean, if you don't mind, why don't you let our audience know a little bit about your background for those that don't know you?
Yeah, for me, I started at the NFL. It was interesting. I have a different kind of a different pathway. I didn't officiate. I didn't growing up. I played sports. I loved football, baseball, basketball, hockey, whatever it was, and knew that I had a passion for it and wanted to continue that. When I went to school, I went to Hofstra University in Long Island. That's where I grew up, and took a communications degree path and doing TV production and broadcast journalism, behind the scenes stuff as well. But I always knew that sports was where I wanted to be. And when I was graduating, I sent my resume just to the four major sports organizations. All have offices in New York City. I'm local.
Yep.
Sent my resume. The NFL called and had a couple of internship opportunities. Went in and interviewed in a couple of different departments, and one was officiating. And I was lucky enough and blessed to get the opportunity to do that internship in officiating, and learned it from there, and was putting together videos, training tapes. We have officiating supervisors that were former officials that were training the on-field officials, and they would put together an offensive holding tape or a defensive pass interference tape, and they'd give me the plays, the playlist, and I would basically cut the tapes. And as I'm cutting the tape, I'm watching the film and I'm learning and asking questions, and it kind of went from there. I was hired full time. This goes back to '95, and that kind of kickstarted my career. And again, blessed to have had that opportunity.
Yeah, that's awesome. Most of the people now that I've spoken with at the collegiate level, talking about starting I'm now coaching my son's youth team, but I'm staying in the high school level and then moving up the ranks in that aspect. So that's a fantastic story. That's definitely a unique one of being able to start right up at that level and at least being in the building and learning from
Yeah.
right at that perspective. So that's awesome. Um, so you're a person who wears many hats. So you time in the NFL. Now you're with the UFL. You're in Fox Sports. Why don't you let our listeners know a little bit about the multiple hats that you're wearing these days?
Well, my path through the NFL, when in 2016, that was my last season at the NFL, and got a great opportunity to go to Fox Sports, and it opened up some other doors. So now I do college and football, game days, Saturdays and Sundays, and then it opened up other possibilities like spring football. So I was a part of the XFL back in 2020, and now the UFL, and we had our first full season. The USFL and XFL merged, and it was really a lot of fun. And I also work for the CFO, which is the college football officiating, kind of the umbrella where for college football all of the officiating falls under. So I'm the national director of instant replay. So I'm able to work with the college conferences and the replay officials, continue to do the work with Fox Sports, get involved in spring football, still have connections with the NFL. So it's really, it's opened up a lot of doors for me. 33rd Team, which is a great resource. If you get a chance, go to 33rdteam.com. It's a lot
Yep.
of former players and coaches and administrators, and getting together, talking about football, putting a lot of content out there about specifically the professional game, and so I'm a part of that, and yeah, it keeps me busy, and it keeps me doing something that I really love.
So you basically don't have an off season, do you?
No, we do. There's windows we get through. Once the Super Bowl ends, right after the Super Bowl in mid-February, there's a little bit of a window before the UFL season starts this year. The UFL season will start end of March, like it did last year. So there's some time there, and then after the UFL season, from mid June until about mid July, there's a window there to get a little bit of a break. But then we get going with officiating clinics and seminars and
Yep.
preseason NFL, and so it's football is 24/7. It's 365 days a year, and but again, just extremely blessed to watch football for a living. So it's great.
Eh, Listen, that's why I'm still involved in it. I started off coaching when I was 22 years old. I was coaching my college teammates, my college roommates, actually, at a small Division III school here in New Jersey, and I just kept it being involved in it. And now I got the stripes on for about 8, 9 years. I lose count of my years now. Getting a little gray, as you can see. Uh, so, but yeah, it's just it's awesome to be involved in the sport and still doing it year round. Um, so I this year I actually had the pleasure of getting in touch with and having a couple of other guests on that are from the UFL and working the collegiate game and stuff like that. And it opened my eyes because I'm not going to lie, the old USFL, Herschel Walker and the New Jersey Generals back in the
Mhm.
day was my first taste of it back in the day. But then being involved with family and stuff like that, I really didn't pay much credence to it. And then talking now to other officials and learning more about the game, I was intrigued with what was going on this year. I tried to catch as many of the games as possible around my kids' game schedules because Saturday's baseball. They got us all going in the spring. But tell us a little bit about the UFL and how you guys came up. And there's a number of different nuances now that we're starting to see, almost a trickle up effect in essence.
It's been great. This spring football, started whether it was the XFL, the USFL, now the UFL, was really an opportunity to just get a blank piece of paper and kind of figure out, okay, what are some things we can do differently? The NFL's established, there's a structure there. If you're going to make rules changes, there's a process you go through. You have to get 75% yes votes in terms of all the owners. But with the UFL and spring football, we kind of had a little more of in terms of a license to go in and say, well, how can we make the game better, more exciting, improve the
Hmm.
game flow? How can we improve officiating? And that was the biggest thing. My experience with the XFL in 2020 and even in 2023 was amazing. The positive feedback we got about officiating, about kind of pulling the curtain back, and that transparency. Now we're letting the fan listen to what because we all watch games. You live it. You're out on the field, you're working, there's a flag, you got to get together and talk about it. Hey, what are they talking about, right? What's happening?
Yep.
Why are they conferencing? And now we let the fans listen to that conversation. We let them listen and see what's happening in the replay booth, so they have a better understanding of the why. And what we've learned is that it really gives the fans that education in terms of, hey, here's what they're trying to do. It's not, it kind of, sometimes there's these conspiracy theories, and it's just people trying to do a job, and they're trying to get it right. And
Yep.
that's what we learned, and we were able to experiment with different rules, and we had a unique kickoff in the XFL that the NFL is using a version of that today, which is
Yeah.
incredible. And so when you have that opportunity to do some different things and mold the games, timing rules are a little bit different, and kind of take, okay, here's some college rules that we like, but here's some NFL rules that we like, here's some unique rules, and put together a rule book that is different and unique, and you take that with the transparency, and people really liked it and took to it, and the ratings have been great. So it's been a great experience.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The first game that I watched early in the season, I was kind of taken back when I went to the replay, and all of a sudden it broke off to you guys in the replay and the conversation. I'm like, oh, this is awesome because, like you said, I'm familiar with it, but everybody else isn't. And you
Yeah.
still hear it about the script with the NFL and the
Yeah.
conspiracy theories. So,
I try to tell
but yeah,
people
it's
I was at the NFL for a long time, and they never invited me to those script meetings. I never I didn't get access to the script, and I was in charge of officiating, which I feel like you'd want that person in on it. So, but I was never invited. So I don't know.
Yeah, so we can kind of debunk that myth right there, but it's definitely one that's still out there, and I mean your ardent fans are still gonna go that way, especially when their team's not getting the W. So right now it's the Chiefs script and the Eagles script, so we'll see what's going on with that. And Mr. Brady retired now, so it's not the Brady script anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, the different rules. A friend of mine, we were talking about. I'm heavily involved with my son's baseball team, and you see a lot of different things in minor league baseball that they kind of do experimenting wise. It's kind of the same thing that you guys are doing with the UFL, but it's not a minor league. It's a professional league, and it's a professional players, and it's still got the size and the speed and all the other attributes that you've got in an NFL game going on there with now the different tweaks. And I think that's something that is definitely great for the game. So the kickoff being one of them. Anything upcoming with the UFL that we could possibly look forward to in that aspect?
Well, I think we're gonna start to really review our rule book and see, what changes we want to make. What's great is that we don't feel like we have to make a bunch of changes, and that's always good.
Mm-hmm.
When whether it's the high school level, the college level, the NFL level, when there's constant turnover in terms of rules changes, and we have 12 or 13 new rules, everybody has to adjust. And people
Yes.
forget, the coaches and players have to adjust. So do the officials, and because they're the ones, right? The officials are the ones that got to go out there and apply these rules. And so, we don't feel like we have to make a ton of changes, but we're excited about maybe looking how the NFL kickoff goes this year, and maybe we tweak the UFL kickoff. Adding, we add the coaches challenge where a coach could challenge anything once during the game. We're talking about if the coach wins that challenge, they could get a second one. Some other things in terms of penalty enforcements. We got rid of half the distance, which was even a challenge for me, because when you think of half the distance and that enforcement, that's kind of so ingrained. So we did some different things in that area. So I think we're going to do a comprehensive review, and we're excited. And like you said, it's I think baseball's done a great job with a lot of the rules changes recently, and you think of pace of play and other things that they're testing in the
Yep.
minor leagues. And so the UFL, it's not a minor league. We have a great partnership with the NFL.
Yeah.
This is professional football. Obviously, we want all of our people, our players, our coaches, our officials, everybody, the video directors, to get an opportunity to get to that next level. But this is professional football, and people really have, like I said earlier, have to really take into it.
That's awesome. So, what rules question that I do want to ask you about with the UFL, and I don't recall actually seeing it done with the games that I was able to view. What's the onside kick rule with the UFL?
Yeah, so the onside kick, the it's basically what as a traditional onside kick. So you would kick off, right. The restraining lines would be 10 yards apart. The ball has to travel 10 yards or be touched first by the receiving team. So the UFL kickoff last year was unique in that the ball was kicked off from the 20, meaning when the kicker's kicking from the 20, more footballs or less footballs are going to reach the end zone. So we're going to get
The end
more
zone.
returns. It was treated like a punt once the ball crossed the 50-yard line. It was treated like a punt, whereas the kicking team couldn't recover and get possession unless the
Okay.
receiving team touched it first. And it's more of a traditional onside kick where today, like with the NFL, the regular kickoff is different. They'd have to declare an onside kick,
Yeah.
and go to the 35 to the 45. With the UFL, they didn't have to declare because we were kicking off with the 10-yard restraining line already.
Okay. And the reason that I was asking, because I recently did an All Star game here in New Jersey, and the onside kick rule was actually a 4th down and 12,
Hmm.
and they did it that way. So 4th and 12, and for the other listeners that don't understand it, so they declared that they were going for an onside kick. We marked the ball at the still had it at the 40-yard line, but they then had to get to the in essence, I guess ours 48-yard line. They would have to gain 12 yards to get to maintain possession of the ball. And if they didn't, then the receiving team would get the possession of the ball. So it was a regular scrimmage down in that essence instead of. And I think what they were doing with that, and we've done pop up kicks and different things like that to try to take it out for the safety of the high school level kids. Just trying to make it a little bit safer instead of having that rugby type of scrum that you were getting on some of the onside
Sure.
kicks. It made it more of a offensive and defensive play. So that's why I was
Yeah,
wondering
and
where
we have
they
that,
had gotten it
and we
from.
have that, and I was talking strictly about the onside kick itself, but we have an onside kick alternative that a team could elect to go for, and it's a 4th and 12 as well. So you'd get the ball from the
Okay.
28, you go to your own 40. So you could go onside kick, or you could declare for the onside kick alternative, and that would be a fourth quarter play, score tied, or if you're behind, and
Yep.
that ultimately, the I think we were 100% of the time teams would go for that alternative versus the traditional onside kick.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Personally, I actually like that. And as a former coach, yeah, there's not many 4th and 12 plays in our play
Yeah.
script or anything like that. But if I know that I need that for an onside kick, sure as heck, that's something I'm going to be practicing, just like we practice an onside kick. So that's definitely something I thought was, and I thought it was more entertaining for the fans too, because a lot of time the fans, when you get that onside kick, it's massive bodies and a ball under there somehow, and then we got to pull people off and peel people back, and now we're all right. Blue ball, here we go, first down this way, and people. One side's going nuts, other side's like, "What the heck happened?" So
Yeah.
I think the offense and defensive play kind of made it a little bit easier, in my opinion, with that.
Yeah, I would totally
Um,
agree.
so now going back to your days as a replay official, here in New Jersey, we no longer have replay for our high school athletics. It was something that the state tried a couple of years back. I have a whole episode on it. We had some different things that went on with it. What are your thoughts overall on the replay spectrum with the NFL and the college level right now, with how it's being used and utilized?
Well, I think replay, and I think the last probably 2 years is at somewhat of a crossroads. I think replay has been overwhelmingly positive for the game. The game happens so fast, especially at the NFL level, Division 1 FBS level, and you want to have an opportunity to get big, significant plays right. And there are
Yeah.
plays that just through no fault of anyone, it's hard. The official didn't have the best look, or the play was just that close, and to have that opportunity with the video to correct a potential game changing issue is good. And but I think we do have to kind of get to a good place where we have to let the officials officiate the game on the field, and then use replay as a tool to help when there's objective information that is going to be provide value. I don't think replay will ever replace the on-field official. I think on-field officials do so much, as you know better than me. I mean, you're managing the game, you're keeping the game under control, you're responsible for the game flow, all of those things, and replay really has to be there as that safety net on. And I was around in 1999 when we brought the replay back into the NFL, and it was really, the premise was simple. It was to correct an obvious mistake in a significant situation, right? And we've kind of drifted further away from that, and
Okay.
we're involved in more things right now in replay, but it was really for the big plays, the scoring plays, the turnovers, the explosive plays, those types of things. So I think replay is good for the game. I know, it's trickled down like to the high school level, and I think, but there's different resources, right? Not every high
Yeah.
school association, not every group has the same resources, even on the college level. That's, if you're, the Big Ten conference has more resources than the Big Sky conference. That's just the reality of it. And
Yeah.
but I think we just have to continue. I think it's a good thing. I'm positive for the game, but we got to find the right balance.
So I'm finding now, watching the games on Saturdays and Sundays, hearing the announcers talk about, well, that was a replay assist
Yeah.
call, or am I? Is that the correct term? Am I using that
Yeah,
term
yeah,
right?
that's an NFL term. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, can you explain what that's all about with the replay assist?
Sure. So replay assist is different. There's coaches challenges, there's replay reviews. Those are actual formal reviews where the referee will come over, put the headset on, will communicate with the replay booth, communicate with for the NFL the replay center, the game day central at the league office in New York. But then there's also video assist, which is a couple years old, where in real time, if the replay official can provide objective information, can help the officials make that call. So if there's a tight catch, no catch at the sideline, and the line judge and the field judge come together and they're talking about it, and the replay official's looking at the video and sees that the pass is incomplete, they can then communicate that to say, hey, ball's on the ground, it's incomplete, and then
Okay.
everybody can move on. And so those are things that are happening in real time when it's clear cut and there's objective information. The foot's out of bounds, the ball's on the ground, the knee was down, those types of things where replay can assist, um, regardless of whether a coach challenges or those types of things.
Now, is there any scenario where a penalty can be called or overturned in the assist aspect?
So certain aspects of a penalty, if there's a rough in the passer called for a hit to the head neck area, if replay sees that there was no contact to the head neck area, the contact was to the chest or the shoulder.
Uh-oh, got a little freezing action going on right now.
Replay of the contact of bounds was actually inbounds, then they can assist. There's areas of intentional grounding as it relates to the pocket or whether the quarterback's under pressure. Those are things they can't make the call by themselves. It's only when there's a flag thrown on the
Okay.
field they can provide objective information in those situations.
Yeah, because I've had people ask me, well, how come they didn't get assist on that holding? That was a blatant hold that they missed, and so just wanted to clarify
Yeah,
that
that's
for a lot
not
of
that's not
people.
assistable. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Um, I love how you guys with the UFL, and I keep on going back to it with the drones and the technology with the drones that were out there. Is that something that is that more entertainment value, or is that something that you might see trickle down with the officiating help with different replays and stuff like that, or do you already use it with the officials?
Well, yeah, we're using that now. Any camera that we're using on the broad to assist in replay, and so that's all part of it. So the drone shots, I don't think we've used a drone shot in a replay review yet, but we have, we had cameras, officials wearing body cameras. We have the pylon cameras. We have all these different looks that any of those that are on the broadcast we can use to make decisions in replay, and they've been a real positive.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. From the coaching standpoint, like I said, I'm still coaching my son's youth
And have
team.
helped.
There's no better angle than that drone angle when you're trying to coach it up and see different things. So I know the big games they've got the ones on the wires and everything like that, but those drones could give you a whole different angle that can get up and down as quickly as possible.
Yeah, they've been
So
great.
now you just jokingly said before you don't really have an off season, but what are your thoughts with? I know the NFL has gotten a little bit more full time officials as opposed to officials that are working secondary jobs or primary jobs and officiating being a secondary job. What are your thoughts on that? Is it a good balance? Is it you were in those shoes? How difficult was that if you weren't a full time official?
Well, I think football's just interesting because just historically you're playing one game a week, right? So officials, it's not like baseball or basketball where there's multiple games a week. So officials just had jobs during the week, and that's just how it's evolved. I think when they get to I see Division 1 level and the NFL level, I see a lot of officials that it just switches, right? You're a football official, and then you might have a job on the side,
Hmm.
and they really do spend. You know how much you prepare for your games, and every official it goes through that preparation and watching film and going through the rule book and taking quizzes and then tests. And during the football season, NFL officials are as full time as any other profession that I've ever been around. I mean, they spend countless hours looking at film on Zoom calls, on conference calls. They get evaluated on their game from multiple different layers. They do their own evaluation. Then they're traveling during the week sometimes. Maybe it's a Thursday game, maybe it's a Monday night game. They have pregame meetings where they're going through everything, scouting the upcoming teams that they're going to work. So there's a lot that goes into it, and so I think they're making NFL officials full time. To me, it's more of just it would be more of kind of like a PR thing versus what
Okay.
they're actually doing. Sure, I think there's some opportunities in the off season to do more, and anytime you get more reps, whether those are actual reps or virtual reps and watching film, you're gonna get better, and I think there's an opportunity for that in the off season. But during the season, these officials are.
Yeah, they're definitely working full time. Um, so now you mentioned before when you first got into it, you were working a lot of training seminars and different things like that. Can you explain to our listeners like what that process would be like with the training and just coming up through? I know you started at the higher rank, but just what the training process was to get everybody prepared for getting the games on Saturdays and Sundays.
Sure. So, yeah, I mean the normal pathway is starting at the youth level, high school, and then working your way up to college. And there's so many officiating camps throughout the year, especially in the off season, where officials can come, high school officials, lower level college officials can come, and work scrimmages and work practices, and have the officiating coordinators from the different conferences come and NFL scouts and things like that. It's just like with players. I mean, you're when I was at the NFL, we have a scouting program, and we're trying to identify officials with talent and give them an opportunity to kind of work up the ranks. That's something we do on the replay side, and we have biweekly Zooms, bi-monthly Zooms, where anybody that's interested in football and instant replay can join those Zoom calls and learn about instant replay. And a lot of those people came from other backgrounds, not just officiating backgrounds. Maybe they were former players or coaches or in the media, um, or not outside of football altogether. And they've had an opportunity to learn, and a lot of those folks are now working in the college conferences on the replay side. So there's a lot of different pathways today than maybe there was 30, 40 years ago, and technology's been a real driver.
That's great. So all the young officials that are out there that are listening, there's still opportunities for you. Me being the old head here,
Right now,
50
where the
years old,
content.
it's kind of passed me by a little bit, but it's all good. Um, so now you make it. You're in the Big Ten conference, for example. You're working the Michigans and the Penn States and stuff like that. What type of training are they still doing? You're talking about the film review and the quizzes and different things like that. How, like, a general week for them? How many times are they meeting with their crew? How many times are they doing quizzes and different things like that just to try to stay sharp?
Sure. I mean, right after the game, each official is getting they can access the TV copy of the game, and then the coach's copy is available shortly thereafter, which is your sideline and end zone, and they're evaluating their own game immediately. The crew will put together an evaluation. Typically, they'll have a call probably Tuesday night to go through their game and go through anything that they wanted to discuss. While that's happening, the officiating supervisors they're evaluating the film and looking at things, and kind of grading the calls and looking for no calls and positioning and mechanics and things like that. Then there's typically position Zoom calls each week, so referees, umpires, downfield, line of scrimmage will all have their position Zoom calls, replay, and then the training tapes will come out later in the week. Officiating training tape. Right around when for that.
Okay. So now with the officiating, with the feedback, are you giving are they getting feedback immediately after the game? Is there somebody that's coming into the locker room and kind of giving them a rundown of what they saw, maybe even at halftime, different things like that?
Yeah, not so much at halftime. The halftime they'll talk as a crew on their own, but after the game, if the crew is going to stay over, if they're not getting out that day, then yeah, then there'll be officiating supervisor. We did that at the UFL. We tried to schedule the officials to where they'd stay over after their game.
Okay.
And because then they could get cash, and that was really so. A lot of times that'll happen on the college level if the officials aren't traveling home right after the game. They can do that in person. If not, then that'll happen during the week.
No, I joke around a lot on my show. We talk about, and one of my little sponsor things that I have is if you like the show, you can buy me a beer. But it's one thing that we do as a crew after each game. We go out to a little local restaurant and just kind of
Sure.
decompress and talk about the game and talking about life, talking about everything. But it's still revolving around, hey, Mike, what did you see on that play that you threw a flag or you didn't throw a flag? And we're talking about the keys and just running down and going through everything. Sometimes play by play. Sometimes the great games when you don't have to take those flags out and we can sit back and kind of enjoy that moment and talk about how it was well played and well managed. Or other times, man, we threw 15 flags and 12 accepted penalties that game, and what can we do to improve what we're seeing, and did we make sure that we got everything? So that's something that we're doing immediately after the game. So, and at halftime, that's part of our halftime conversation too. We're not just sitting there. I know some people think we're just sitting there scrolling on our phones and maybe going on some other Instagram stuff, but we're doing the same thing. We're discussing the game, how we can improve from quarter to quarter, from half to half, even during a timeout. We're getting together and huddling and talking about that.
I think that's such an important piece of what the kind of the misconception about officials and how they're constantly working and that when the game's over, the officials know if they worked a good game or not immediately, and
Yeah.
they'll know you'll know the calls you missed or the ones you want to go look at, and or if the game went really well. Nobody has to tell you that, and that the crew is always going to be their harshest, in terms of evaluator and critic.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I think that's just the best way to learn too is by a court of your or whatever I'm trying to think lawyer speak, but a court of your peers out there
Yeah,
telling you what to do, but your peers in tight with you. And my crew, we all have thick skin, and we remind ourselves we're checking our ego at the door. If I miss something, we miss something. So
yeah,
we always continue to say it, and our white hat gets on us a lot. If if you guys screw up, it makes me look bad, and I don't want to look bad, so you don't screw up. And if I screw up, it's still your fault that I screwed up. So he's a fiery character, but it's definitely a point that he's gotten across to us that we're a team. Like we're there. We
sure,
have to have each other's back and make sure that, okay, hey, let's get this one right. And if we need to take an extra second, let's talk about it.
no doubt.
Now, with the higher levels, I know with us, we're with the O to O's now on the field between us officials, but we're not getting anything from up top game wise. How often is that happening at the collegiate level, at the NFL level, and not even the replay assist, but just that extra set of eyes upstairs? How much is that working?
I think it's happening more and more. I think O to O, right? That wireless communication has become a real, um, it's an asset for the most part, but it really has become an integral part, and we're using it more, even outside of replay, where hey, if we've got, there's an out of bounds spot, maybe there was a little bit of a scuffle and officials had to go break it up, and so we don't have the out of bounds spot. Hey, where can you get us the spot, or helping with flag, a flag on a spot foul? Maybe it's a couple of yards off. So I think that is happening quite a bit. I think the replay folks are helping in those areas. I still think the on-field officials have to really take ownership of that initially,
Hmm.
and then if replay sees something, they can communicate and help out. But yeah, that communication is happening more and more, amongst not just the crew on the field, but with the folks in the replay booth, and it really is all just one crew, and they're just, as you know, just all trying to get it right, and just trying to
Yeah.
trying to get, you want to try to get every play right. It's impossible. No, right? No one's perfect. I mean, I had two NFL coaches tell me the same thing in two separate conversations. There's three groups that affect games: coaches, players, and officials. And officials make the least amount of mistakes, but we always focus on those, right? We always focus on
Yes.
those mistakes.
So now, how much of the conversation, how much of the O to O play is actually going on between snaps, like during the actual play itself? Is there chatter going on, or is that dependent upon with the different crews?
Yeah, I think there is some chatter. There's some opportunities for that type of communication. It's not as much during the play, but there's things like if the quarterback rolls out of the pocket, and the referee can just quickly say out of the pocket, because with the NFL game, right, illegal contact goes away when the quarterback leaves
Yep.
the pocket, so that can help the downfield officials with that information. So those things, or the ball's gone, those types of things, you will hear that from time to time. It's not as much during the play; it's more before the play, after the play. Before the play, a lot of times it's officials just making sure, especially your downfield officials, just making sure which eligible receiver they're gonna start with at the snap,
Okay.
and those time maybe it's a bunch formation, and we got to let them declare, so they'll communicate that, those types of things. And then after the play, it's a lot of it is the reporting the penalty. A foul information is a lot easier. It's more efficient when, if you have a back judge who's 30 yards downfield, can just quickly communicate that they have DPI on number 32, and we can just be more efficient with that communication.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm finding with us now at the lower levels, we're also doing it formationally, like you're talking about, uh, five guys in the backfield, different things like that. Hey, let's punch them on, work with the kids, different things like that. So trying to do it pre-snap and post-snap, but not much between the whistles. We're trying
Yeah.
to, for us at the high school level, we're trying to keep it quiet so that we're focused on what's going on in the play.
Sure.
But as soon
Yeah.
as that play is over, especially with cross-field mechanics too, getting that help on a spot when you're kind of behind on a scrum because of
Yeah.
stuff going on the sidelines, getting that spot from across the field for us, that's definitely helped us out a lot with the technology. And so I'm hoping that just continues to get better and better, and hopefully we do get that extra set of eyes in the sky, because I know I've thrown a flag and it's a spot foul and continue officiating the play, and I turn back around and that flag got kicked, or the flag
Yeah.
was in the middle of something else like that, and now I'm like, well, where was the spot? And now maybe it got kicked 4 yards backwards, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's exactly where the foul was, and I'm trying to get it. Having that extra set upstairs can definitely help out with that.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example of when you'd want that replay to come in and help, because those things can happen.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, shoot, I'm at the high school level. Here, Mr. Official, here's your flag.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But
They mean well with it, but I'm like, oh, dude, just
yeah,
leave
it
that
needed
there.
that to stay on the ground, son. Yeah.
Yep. So now, how are you finding it with fan interaction now at the bigger games? And are you still seeing it? Is it still kind of us against them at times, or are people starting to understand it a little bit more? I know you talking about the transparency with the UFL is definitely helping. Are is the general fan starting to see it a little bit more in your eyes? You're on a bigger scope than what I have right here.
Well, I think the things like we talked about with the transparency from the UFL and the spring leagues has really helped. I do think, look, the reality is it still is officials are viewed in a certain way, and unfortunately that's usually negative. All right, we don't get, and I think people that get into officiating, you're if you're looking for a lot of pats on the back from the fans, that's just not it's not going to happen, right?
No.
But I think it's I think it's probably, I don't think it's any better or worse right now, but I do think we're at a point when you think about, just having shortages of officials to work at the lower level, at high school and things like that, and not being able to play as many games on Friday night because we just don't have as many officials. And so now you got to play Wednesday night, Thursday night because you have the same officials working those games. So I think we are at a point where we just have to all together, and it starts. And we really focus with our announcers, um, just being mindful of how they're communicating about officiating on the broadcast, because that doesn't mean you can't disagree with a call. I disagree with calls during games. That's perfectly acceptable, but it's how you communicate that. If you're taking an aggressive or a demeaning tone, or flat out just bad mouthing the officials, then that trickles down, and then you get at the youth level, and you get the parents and the coaches and treating the officials poorly. And we've got young kids that are trying to do this, and they're being verbally abused by adults, which is so unfortunate, and then they don't want
Yeah.
to do it anymore, and I don't blame them. And that's so I think it's still not great, and we've got to just continue to work at educating and allowing people to see what goes into it. And I think once you see what goes into it and you understand all the things that have to happen for the game to be officiated, I think people will have a better, just a better respect, and will, some of that negativity can go away.
I'm not gonna lie. That's kind of my broad scope of why I'm doing this podcast and this show. I'm just trying to bring it out to people, be it coaches, fans, other officials. I'm just trying to bring the awareness out there of what we do and the why of what we do. I mean, I
Yeah.
love football. I've been involved in the game. Like I said, I'm 50 years old now. I started playing when I was in high school, so I started playing at 14, 15 years old and played collegiately. Then I coached, and then now I'm an official. So this has
Yeah.
been more than three-quarters of my life has been around the sport of football. So I love it, and I want to continue to see it grow. And now I'm seeing it from a different angle the past 8 years. So it's
Sure.
definitely given me an appreciation for it. But yeah, I do kind of go into it knowing that I'm not going to get the pat on the back. And I learned that even coaching wise, we beat a game, we beat a team 49-0, didn't run the score up, walking off the field. A dad called me over. How come my son didn't get that ball on the 1 yard line? I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so that was kind of when I'm like, regardless of what I'm doing, I'm still not going to be making everybody happy. So I'm going to do what's going to make me happy. And
Sure.
being involved in this sport makes me happy. And hopefully I can have a trickle down effect on other officials, coaches, and most importantly, the kids that I'm dealing with. So I'm hopefully making them have a love of the game.
Yeah, and that's so important.
So now, kind of a last question. We're getting to that 45-minute mark, so I don't want to keep you much longer. But you brought up the shortage of officials that we're having at the lower levels. Are you seeing an effect on the higher levels going up, or and if you are, what ideas, what suggestions do you possibly have for us to start getting more people included in this sport?
Well, I don't think we see a shortage of just sheer numbers when you get to, like, I don't think the NFL is ever going to have a shortage of officials, but I do think that when you start at the grassroots level and we're getting less people that want to do it, and so if you don't get good young people that get started early and develop and learn and get that experience, then eventually that the overall quality of the officiating will degrade over time. And I think
Yeah.
you would see that over the course of the next 5, 10, 15 years. And I think that's the issue. And because again, to create a and sustain a pipeline of people, you've got to have, right, you've got to have that good flow of good people getting in and getting started, and then working the way up, and then when it's time to go, the people, hopefully they're able to go out on their own terms and retire, and then you have somebody that can step up into their place, and that's the ideal scenario. And so I do think that while there'll never be a shortage at the NFL level or the Division 1 level, I do think that your overall staff won't be as good because we're not getting good young people in at the grassroots level.
So, for the casual listener that might be out there, what suggestions do you have for them to get involved, and a why for them to become an official?
Well, I think we kind of touched on a lot of it. It's if you love sports and you love football, whatever sport it is, and maybe you played it, maybe you coached it, whatever it is, covered it. This is a way to be involved in that sport. It's a different perspective. And 99.9% of officials that I've been around, and I've been around a lot of officials at all different levels, love it and are passionate about it. And once
Yeah,
they start, they really get hooked. And think about that. Think about, we're talking about getting yelled at and not being able, right? Half the people are going to be upset with you, and then those half, the people that liked you, now they don't like you on your next call. So think about going into that profession and staying in it. It's because they love it, and it's
yeah,
fun, and it's a way to stay involved with the sport. And I think it's just something I always tell people. We talk to college athletes, and hey, the very top, the 1% are going to play professionally, right? And for the 99% of us, this is a way that, yeah, you could get to the NFL, as an official versus a player. Even, this is an opportunity for, to make some money. I mean, if you're a young kid, and whether you're in high school or college, and you want, and you need, you got to get a job, you're going to be out there on the field, you're going to be running around, you're going to be, rather than working in some other industry while you're going through school. It's just it's a lot of fun. And I think once you catch the bug, that's it. It's there for life. And all of the officiating community is so incredible. There isn't a place in the country, and there's probably not a lot of places in the world, where if I was and I needed something, I could reach out to somebody I've met through officiating, and they'd be there. And it becomes a family.
it truly does. I wholeheartedly agree with that, and I'm learning that now more and more that I'm doing this show, and meeting different people from not only all over the state of New Jersey, but all over the country. And I've now got people all over the world that have been contacting me through my podcast here, and
Yeah.
it's just it's a great fraternity of people, of all walks of life, of race, gender, no matter what it is. We got the stripes on. We're on the same team. We're all doing the same thing for the most part. So,
Yeah, it's an
great stuff,
incredible
Dean.
community.
It truly is. Um, that's all that I got for you. I once again, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on here. I'm still working on the kinks of my live show. I got some text messages of people that were saying they couldn't get on, so I got to try to figure out my platform here a little bit better. But this show is definitely recorded, and it's definitely going to be posted out there. Um, is there any last words of wisdom you want to leave with anybody out there with?
I mean, I'm just always appreciative of the opportunity to meet new people and talk about officiating, and anybody that's listening. And actually, look, if you want, Mike, share my email. If you want to jump on any of these Zoom calls that we do during the football season, everybody's welcome. And you can learn
Okay.
a little bit about football, a little bit about replay, and if you take a, kind of a liking to it, we can start you down that path, and in terms of getting connected with college conferences and things like that. So, I love to meet new people and help people along the way.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, and if you don't mind, I on the show notes I could put in the
Yeah,
different information on that. So yeah, that would be fantastic. And I'm not gonna lie, I would love to sit in on some of
yeah,
these meetings
absolutely,
and learn.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm always up for learning. I'm my old coaching ways. I'm never done learning, so I can always learn something new or pick up a new trick.
Oh, we all can.
Absolutely. Well, Dean, once again, truly appreciate you taking the time, and I definitely will be hitting you up for one of those meetings myself. And for those that want to reach out to Dean Blandino, I will throw his email up on the show notes, and you could reach out to him. But again, thank you. Hope your season continues to go great for you. I know we got a game going on tonight right now that I've had on in the background slightly. I haven't been paying attention to it, but go jump on that and see what's going on in the rest of the world.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, and yeah, we'll do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you.